Today I'm sharing 3 projects that have me kept busy. One wrap cardigan that finally started working after a little fixing with my double knit band experiment. One keyboard sweater that is turning out exactly how I dreamed, that is now recovering well after a tiny surgery moment. And a brand new one that has been really fun with a fresh new pair of socks. So grab your knitting, get comfy, and let's dive in. Hi everyone, and welcome back to another knitting podcast episode. My name's Luisa, but everybody calls me Lu. I post regular podcast episodes here on the channel every 2 weeks, talking about all my knitting projects I'm working on at the moment and my plans for the near future. And this is episode 17 of my knitting podcast. I've been spending a lot of time with my projects lately, and you know those weeks when things start clicking again? That's exactly how it's been. I've had some ups and downs, and I feel, what was I thinking moments? Some unexpected fit issues that required a little bit of surgery to fix, but also a couple of really excited wins that make me love knitting all over again. Alright, let's start with the wrap cardigan, the one that gave me a little bit of trouble, but it's finally behaving. I made a small change that completely turned things around, and now I'm really happy with how it's coming together. And I'm talking about my late summer wrap. And here it is. Oh, it looks so good now. I fixed the issue I had with my double knit band, and now I think it's looking great, just as it's supposed to be. And now I can see the one of the sides doesn't want to behave. Let me grab a stitch marker and see if I can make things better. Yeah, it looks a little bit better. So this is my late summer wrap by Knitting for Olive or Pernille Larsen. This is such a satisfying project. The pattern, this is a wrap cardigan, and I'm knitting mine using the recommended yarn, which is Knitting for Olive Merino and Knitting for Olive Soft Silk Mohair. My Merino colorway is colorway Claret. Let me see if I can show you. And I'm pairing it with Soft Silk Mohair, also by Knitting for Olive, in the colorway Plum Rose. So this is the combo that I have. I am absolutely in love with these 2 colors together with this combo. Let me show you the back of my cardigan, just so you can see a little bit more of the fabric it is creating. I just discovered this, that I love mixing 2 different colors, like the merino and soft silk mohair, like I'm doing right now. I am using a lighter shade, a lighter pink color paired together with a dark deep red, and I am absolutely in love with these 2 colors. The fabric is really soft. This is my first time doing a Knitting for Olive combo of merino and soft silk mohair, so I'm also really excited about that. But the main focus of this wrap today is the button band. Well, the band, because it has no buttons. Last time I showed you guys this project. The pattern is written for a ribbed band. I don't know if it's 1x1 ribbing or something like that. It's a sort of ribbed band, but I didn't like the look of it. It looked a bit wonky, and I felt like I could elevate the look a little bit with a double knit band, but I wanted to knit a knit as you go band instead of a band that you pick up stitches after you're done working on the body and then just work the button band like I do with my cardigan here. Pick up stitches and knit a band after the fact. I didn't want to do that, so I just swapped that up for a double knit band and started working on the body, but I didn't account for the difference in row gauge. I know it's silly, but I didn't think of it at the time, so the fabric was terrible. It was all puckered here and it was looking terrible. I just put a stitch marker here to help keep things in place, but I think it's working out. We'll see. But since then, the fabric was so terrible that I had to basically frog all the way back to the the neck band. I always say button band, but anyway, neck band. Let me turn it slightly to the side, so I think it's better to see what I mean with the fabric. So I have to frog all the way back to the neckband, and I made some changes to the fit and also to the band, and I think now it's working out great. I don't have any puckering issues here with the fabric. I think it's exactly how it's supposed to be, and I am so happy with this. Now I have the same length for the band as I do for the body, which is something I didn't have before because of the roll gauge difference, but let me share with you what I did to get it to look like this. I don't know if what I'm saying is right or not, I think it is, but what I'm sharing with you was all the reasoning my brain did when I was trying to figure out a way to solve the issue that I had with the roll gauge difference. So, the way this pattern is worked, you obviously knit it flat because it's a cardigan, it's open, so you knit it flat. And because of that, you start, let's say you start your row here, so you work a little bit of the band, work on the body all the way around to the other side, and then work on the band. When you turn your work to work on the wrong side, you knit the band, but and then you go all the way around to the other side of the body. But since this is a double knit band, when you work the band on the right side, you work like the right side of the band. But when you turn your work to work on the wrong side, you just work on the wrong side of the band because you slip every other stitch and knit every other stitch. So when I was working on the wrong side, I wasn't actually knitting the right side of my double knit band, right? So yeah, that's what I was thinking. So what my idea was to knit a extra row just on the band on both sides of my band, and this is what I did here. What I did was I knitted the band, then worked on the body all the way around, got to the other side of the band, knitted the band, turned my work to work on the wrong side, worked only on the band, turned it again, right side of the band, wrong side of the band. So I added one extra row to either side of my button band, or my band that has no buttons, but this is what I did. And then once I had one extra row on the band, then I continued to work on the body all the way around to the other side of the cardigan, and then did the same thing. Worked all the way to the end of my row, turned my work only on the band, turned to the end of the row again, and then worked on the band fourth time, and then started to work on the body again. This is what I did. So for each row I worked on the body, I have 2 rows worked on the band, and I think this solved my row gauge difference because, let me turn it to the side because I think with the light hitting the cardigan like this, but I think it's working out pretty great. Since I am knitting the band as I go, I am using the same needle size for the band as I am using for the body, so I am slightly concerned that with time, with wear, the band will start to flare out a little bit and do something like this. But if that happens, maybe I can add some elastic or something like that to fix that little issue. But for now, I think things are looking great. I thought about changing the needle size only for the band and use one needle size for the body and another smaller one for the band. But it wouldn't be as enjoyable to work on this cardigan if I had to keep switching needle sizes. So I just decided to experiment. Since I'm experiment, let's experiment with the needle size also. This is what I have. All of it is worked on a 4.5 millimeter, which is the needle size recommended for the pattern. I think it's working out pretty great, but I'll have to keep you posted on that because I want to finish the body, block it, wear a little bit until I am absolutely sure that this band is working, but I think things are looking great at the moment, at least. Since I added one extra row to the band, I was also worried I would get little holes on the edge between the body and the band, but I can't see any holes. I think it's pretty good actually. I wasn't very confident when I was working on this, adding one extra row to the band because of that, but it is surprisingly good. I will add some close-up shots, but I think it's pretty good. I can't see any holes or anything on either side of the band, so this is making me really, really happy, and I really hope this band works over time, because if I can manage to work on a double knit band as I go, as I work on the body, like all of it at the same time, oh, it would make cardigan knitting so much more enjoyable. I think it would. I always get a little bit, well, frustrated or tired when I am working on a cardigan, because you have to work on the entire body. And once I'm done working on the body, I have to go back and basically start all over again, just work on the double knit band. I always get a little, I lose my steam when I work on the button band. So if I can actually pull this off, it would make me so happy. But we'll see. I'll have to report back on the button band. But for now, I think it's looking great, but we'll see. I also thought about changing my needle size, like I said, but I think this is a experiment for another time. If this starts to flare out, then maybe on a next project, I can go down a needle size when I'm working on the band. We'll see. But then the process of working on the cardigan wouldn't be as enjoyable, in my opinion, because I'll have to going back and forth between needle sizes. So we'll see, we'll see. And I also don't know if that would mean a little bit of a roll gauge difference and therefore a length issue when comparing the body to the button band, but we'll see. This is what I have for now, and it's making me really happy. And I will report back on the button band as I work on the body and wear this, but for now I am really happy with it and really excited to work on this, and this is a joy to work on. Since I frogged all the way back to my neckband here, I basically knitted the entire thing again, and we are back on track. Actually, we are even a little bit further than what I was last episode. Now I have a good amount actually of the body done. And since I decided to frog this to fix the button band, I also made a couple of modifications to the fit here and there. And now let's go through all the modifications I've made to the fit, because the button band, I think it's not a problem anymore. Since I was frogging it, I noticed with my first iteration of this wrap, or the upper body of the wrap, that I wanted more coverage here around my bust area. So I decided to increase more rapidly for my two fronts here a little bit earlier than what the pattern recommends. The pattern starts increasing more rapidly where this stitch marker here is that I'm holding. I'm increasing every other row. Instead of starting here, I decided to begin here, and I think it gave me a little bit extra coverage around my bust area, and I am really happy with the way it's looking on my body. So it's making me really happy. I'm really glad I decided to add a few more stitches to this area. So now I have around 20 stitches more than what the pattern suggests for the body circumference as a whole. But we'll see if I have to decrease my increase rate when I get past my waist area or something like that, just to return to the stitch count the pattern recommends for the size I'm knitting. But we'll see. For now I think it's looking great. And I also decided to separate for sleeves a little bit sooner than what I did with my first iteration, I guess I could say, of the wrap. So now I've removed 12 rows from the yoke, or the upper body of the cardigan, and also removed 12 stitches from each sleeve. Now I think it's looking just like I imagined. I don't have such a roomy sleeve as I did with my first try of this cardigan. It's roomy, but it's not oversized, which is, I think, the best look. Well, at least the look I have in mind for this cardigan. And the underarm here, it's 2 or 3 fingers below my armpit, which is my sweet spot, I guess I could say. For my underarm. I don't know how to explain this, but it's hitting this section here is hitting me just where I wanted it to. So yeah, I'm really happy with the fit of this cardigan. I'm really happy with it overall. Right now there is nothing bothering me. So this project has been a joy to work on. And yeah, it's really good. It's just a stock net with a double knit band. So it's really relaxing and really easy to pick it up and put it down. I have more coverage around my bust area. This project's making me so happy, and it also knits up really quickly. Yeah, which was a surprise. But since I had to frog all the way back to my neckband here, I had to basically knit this entire thing one more time. And this took me what, 2 days, 3 days, something like that. Certainly no more than 3.5 days. I didn't have much time to dedicate to this project over the last 2 weeks, and I managed to accomplish all of this. So I am really happy with it. Now I want to finish the two balls. Now I want to finish the two balls I'm currently working on, and I think I want to stop working on the body a little bit and start working on one of the sleeves, just to see if everything is coming together as I imagine it is. But yeah, this is my late summer wrap, and I am really, really happy with it, and I can't wait to have this finished and ready to wear. So now let's jump to my second work in progress of today's video, which is one of my dream knits, something I've been dreaming about for I think more than a year now, and I'm talking about my sweater number 15 by My Favourite Things, that also had a few ups and downs over the last 2 weeks, but let me show you my current progress. Here is my sweater number 15 by My Favourite Things. The yarn I'm using for this project is two new to me yarns actually. The first one, my main yarn, is Rosa Pomar Mondim in the colorway C582. I love this color. It's like a dark brown, not really dark, like a medium brown, dark coppery color. I love this color, and I'm pairing it with one strand of 100% lace weight alpaca. This is Isaiah Alpaca 1 in the colorway 33. I don't know if this colorway has a name, maybe Rust? I don't know, it's just a guess. But it's colorway 33, and this is the combo I have. Let me see if I can show you the name. Yeah, this is the combo that I have. Really lovely. I am absolutely in love with the fabric it is creating. I will also add some close-up shots of my project so you can really see all the little details of it. But yeah, I finished the body. Last time I showed you guys this project, I was here where my cherry stitch marker is. So now I finished the body and also did a mid-project block to check how things were looking like, and then I found out that issue. But this is no news. I always have some fit issues when it comes to the yoke. I don't know if you guys watched my latest video. I released a video talking about how I approach sweater knitting and all the steps I take when I'm knitting a sweater to make sure I can knit the fit that I have in my mind. So go check it out in case you want to. It is linked down below. But yeah, all the steps I talked about in that video, I didn't follow when I was working on this sweater. I don't know why. So I had a fit issue that required a little bit of surgery. Last time I talked about this project, I mentioned that the yoke was very likely too deep. My armhole here was too deep, but I didn't want to see the problem, I think. I don't know what. So I just kept on working on it. I joined in around and knitted a good chunk of the body. I was all the way down here where this lilac stitch marker is. I tried it on and I was, oh no, it's good. Is the yoke too deep? Maybe, but we'll block out. Everything will work out just fine. No, it's not. No trouble. No biggie. Yeah. No. My armhole here was what? On the underside of my bra or something like that. It was terrible. It wasn't the fit I was looking for. This is a pretty oversized fit. If you knit it as the pattern recommends, but I am knitting a size, small or something like that. And I'm going to have around 10 to 15 centimeters of positive ease with this one. Now I can't remember the number exactly, but it will be on the screen. I have around 10 to 15 centimeters of positive ease. I think it's more like 15, but it's definitely less positive ease than what the pattern recommends. And I think that's why the armhole here was so deep. And also, I think I always have trouble with fit when it comes to the yoke of my sweaters. So, yeah, moral of the story. I worked all the way down here, and then I decided to stop and do a mid-project block. I should have done it sooner, like when had just joined in the round, around here or so, but I didn't. I was stubborn and I only did a mid-project block when I was all the way down here. So then I tried it on when it was dry, and guess what? The yoke was too deep. I guess I should have known that, but anyway, I didn't want to frog all the way back to here to remove one cable repeat. I did a little bit of math, used a ton of stitch markers, and figured out I had to remove one cable repeat, around 3 centimeters or so of my yoke, to make my underarm stitches go a little bit higher. So I had two options. Number one, I could frog all the way back here to remove one cable repeat and then knit the entire thing one more time. Or I could do a little bit of surgery. And I didn't want to go with option one because when I was working on the back panel here, the first two cable repeats here, I used the yarn I had used to knit my swatch. So it was looking a little bit wonky because it was yarn previously knitted with. So it was looking a little bit wonky. Now after blocking, it looks a little bit better, but it's not as neat as the rest of my sweater. So I didn't want to frog to knit a good chunk of the body, like 2/3 of the body or so, with yarn that had been knitted with previously and have the same issue I had at the back of the neck. And I definitely didn't want to block the yarn just to knit with it one more time. So I decided to do some surgery. I think it was my safest option. I have a stitch marker here showing where I did my surgery procedure. This is looking very fancy. But anyway, when looking at the body first, I went with a needle, a circular needle, and picked up all the stitches I had right past my cable crossing here, and I did the same thing with another needle after the second crossing. Cut my yarn, which is really scary. Ripped back all the rows that I had in between my two needles, and then went back with a tapestry needle or a darning needle. I always call them tapestry needle, but I know people usually say darning needle. Anyway, I went back with a tapestry needle and grafted my two needles, the stitches I had on my two needles together, and this is what I have here. This is, I can barely see, but I think I can see because it hasn't been blocked, the seam hasn't been blocked, so I can see it's going here, and also at the front I can see the same thing here maybe, but it's really subtle. I think when I block this little detail here will block out. I think it looks pretty good as is actually, but this is what I have. So now the yoke is fitting just like I wanted it to, and I finished the body. This project also knits up pretty quickly and I am so happy with it. Oh, I'm so happy with all my knitting projects at the moment, but this is it. I did a 1x1 twisted rib just like the pattern recommends, and I finished it off with a Italian bind off with a little modification for a twisted rib to make it look nice and pretty. And this is what I have. Oh, I also worked on the collar. I didn't have much room around my neck when I was trying it on without the collar, so I shortened the collar by about half a centimeter just to have a little bit of room around my neck. I don't like my collars being too close to my neck. I get a choking feeling. It makes me antsy. I don't like it. I can't wear anything that close to my neck. So I shortened it by half a centimeter or something like that. It is a folded over collar, 1x1 twisted rib, same thing. And I finished it off with a little trick that I always do when I am folding over a color and binding it off at the same time, just to avoid having it too tight of a color to get it past my head. When I am binding it off, I use the same needle size I use to knit a body and do a yarn over in between stitches and bind it off together with the stitch I have on my right hand needle, just to have a little bit extra yarn around the bind off area, just to avoid any tightness around my neck or to get past my head and everything. So I have a lot of room around my neck here, and it is really comfortable to put it on and take it off. So I'm really happy with it. I am loving, just going back to the yarn a little bit, I am loving this yarn as a mohair substitute. This is 100% alpaca and it is a new to me yarn. It is my first time knitting with this yarn and it is really lovely. It's really soft. I love the fabric it is creating and the different shades between this rust color and the medium dark, medium brown. It's really lovely, like I said many times. But I think this is a lovely mohair alternative. It is lace weight 100% alpaca and one ball goes a long way. This this ball comes in 400 meters. So yeah, it's a lot of meat thread and I just finished the body like I said. And to knit its entire body, including my folded over collar, I just opened my third ball. So this yarn goes a long way and I am really happy with my little yarn combo. Oh, it's looking wonky here because some of it has been blocked and the last portion of the body hasn't been blocked. So it is looking terrible when you look at the sides of the body. This section here has been blocked and the bottom section hasn't been blocked. So yeah, it looks really weird now, but I think it will all block out and it worked out just fine. But this is also weirdly long. When I look at the sweater, especially here, it looks really long. Yeah, like alarmingly long. But when I measure it and when I try it on, it looks fine. So I don't know what's going on. It's just comical to look at it. When I look at it, it seems like I have 80 centimeters of sweater. But I don't know what's going on. It fits just fine. So yeah, I'm going with it. But since I blocked this one time, I can tell that, and I think maybe this is odd, but my sweater didn't grow a single centimeter with blocking, like lengthwise. It did grow widthwise a lot, like 20 or so centimeters, but that was expected with the cables, but it didn't grow anything lengthwise. And I was expecting like 1 or 2 centimeters of growth, but I didn't get a single millimeter of growth, but this is what I have, so I'm going with it. Now I'm worried when I block the finished body, it will grow a little bit, but maybe I can move things around when it's drying on my blocking mats and make up for that little bit of growth. Or maybe I can do a French tuck if it ends up being too long. But I think it's looking fine, at least for now. We'll see once it's been blocked, but at least for now, I think it's looking pretty good. Oh, and one thing I forgot to say, I stopped working on the body just one row past a cable crossing, just make sure my ribbing would look pretty straight and not really distorted by the cables. And I think this is pretty good. I am really happy with it. So now enough about my sweater number 15 and let's go with my new cast on as a little treat for finishing my sweat shop blanket. And I decided to cast on a fresh new pair of socks. This is what I have. Well, I just have like 2/3 of the first sock done, but this is what I have here. I have no idea how to show you this, but this is it. Oh, it looks so weird on camera. It looks so wonky, but it's so fun. The yarn I'm using is the same yarn I used to knit my first pair of socks. This is my first pair of socks, and the yarn I'm using is Lana Grossa. I have the label here. It's Lana Grossa Vintage Socks in 2 different colorways. My first colorway is 1012, which is the orange one. I love it. And my second colorway is, the pink one, is 1009. Also Lana Grossa vintage socks. And my third and final yarn is a Filcolana Avetta in the colorway 379 Sprout. Oh, I love this one. But these are the 3 yarns that I have for my pair of socks. And it is the exactly same yarns I've used for my first pair of socks. This is the Cuff Club Volume 1, the January chart by Summer Lee, that I finished during the summer. So the same 3 yarns, and I loved it. I've already mentioned that I want to knit a few pair of socks using these same 3 yarns, but well, changing some design elements and things like that. So that's what I'm doing. I have these 2 as my first pair of socks, with a heel flap and gusset and a little colorwork section here at the cuff. And now I'm doing striped socks. I am using the same pattern, but I'm using the base pattern for the Cuff Club Volume 1. I wanted to cast on the Coral Reef socks, a pattern that I mentioned in my fall knitting plans video. I really wanted to cast that on, but I think this one is easier. I think it's perfect as a little treat after finishing my sweet shop blanket. I think this is easier to get it right, and not worry so much about fit and everything, because I'm doing some experiment with a short row heel. When I was working on my first pair of socks, I found out that I actually don't like to work on a heel flap and gusset, and the Coral Reef sock has a heel flap and gusset. I know I could swap that out for a short row heel, which is what I'm doing here, but I think I want to be sure that I have the right fit before I start working on something more intricate. And well, anyway, this is what I have. I'm using the base pattern for the Cuff Club Volume 1 by Summer Lee. This is a sock set. Each month you'll get a different chart for the cuff, and I am using the base pattern. So this is a cuff to toe sock, and I decided to change the heel. Instead of knitting the heel flap and gusset the pattern suggests, I decided to work on a short row heel, and I went with a shadow, I think it's a shadow wrap. I went with a shadow wrap heel. I don't know who invented this technique, but I watched a video from Denise, from Earth Tones Girl, something like that. Anyway, it is a lovely tutorial. If you need socks, you'll probably heard of her, but she's so nice. So I followed her tutorial on how to knit a short row heel, a shadow wrap short row heel. So this is what I have here. Let me hold my needles so they don't hit my desk, but I don't have a sock blocker, so it's a little bit awkward to show you the sock, but this is it. Let me see if I can show you just the heel. I love this heel. I think this is considered a deep short row heel. I don't really know the terminology, but I have extra rows here on the heel, so I think they are, what, extra deep? But this is it, completely symmetrical on either side. And I absolutely loved working on this heel. I can tell you that. This is so much fun to work on. It is so easy to follow the tutorial. And the way this heel is knit, there's no way you lose where you are in the pattern, let's say. If you have to put it down and pick it back up a few days later, it's really, you just look at the stitches on your needles and you know what you're supposed to do next. It's really enjoyable. I really loved working on this heel, and I added stripes. I think it's pretty obvious, but I added stripes to my sock just to make it more fun, and I love it. I just love it. There's no other thing to say. I just love these socks. I am experimenting, like I said, with the heel. I did a 2x1 rib, worked a little bit on the leg, did a short row heel, shadow wrap short row heel, and now I'm working on the body, and I am just ready to start working on the toes. So I've already cut my yarn here, and now I have to start working on my toes. I did a contrasting heel. I think I want to do I will do my heel with the same contrasting color. So yeah, I'm really excited for this finished pair of socks. And this is what I have. Now going back to the heel a little bit, I I don't know what happens when I work on the heel of a sock, but this is the second time that I work on a shadow wrap short row heel. Well, the first time I was just experimenting with a pair of socks, but I don't even consider them my first pair of socks because they don't fit, they are terrible. But this is actually my second time knitting a short row shadow wrap short row heel, and I always get some rowing out issues when I work on this heel. I don't know why. I never get rowing out issues, like ever, when I am working on sweaters, cardigans, and anything basically. I've already measured it, and I don't have any difference, any tension difference between my knit stitches and my purl stitches, or at least, or I'm sure I have, but it's something so minimal that I don't have any rowing out issues when I switch from working flat to working in the round. So I don't know what happens when I work on heels, but I always get some rowing out. I think you can see. So for this heel, actually, I used a 2.5 millimeter on my right hand and a 2 millimeter on my left hand to try and make up for this rowing out issue, this difference in row gauge and even stitch gauge a little bit, I would say. But this is it. It's a little bit better, but it's still not perfect. But with wear, you won't be able to see any rowing out issues. So I'm pretty happy with it. But yeah, just to share that. And since I am pretty tight knitter, I'm knitting the leg and the foot of my sock on a 2.5 millimeter. Yeah, this is it. This is my sock knitting process. At the moment, I don't have much contrast between the pink and orange stripes. It is what, a pretty soft contrast, I would say. So I don't think this would work out for a sweater or a cardigan. For any garment, I think this contrast would be too subtle. But for a pair of socks, I am pretty happy with it. Let me see if I can show you like this. I think you can see a little bit more of fabric. But yeah. Oh, I am really happy with this sock, so now I just have to work on the toe, and this one will be finished. And I also decided to keep the stripe pattern when I was working on the cuff. Well, actually, I started the stripes when I was working on the ribbing, and now I maybe wish I had done the ribbing in just one color. Yeah, but I won't go back to change that. I really like the way it is now. I just think it would look maybe a little bit nicer with just one color on the ribbing. But anyway, this is what I have, and I am alternating colors obviously to create the stripes, and I'm just carrying my yarn. I'm not breaking my yarn, I'm just carrying it, and I think it looks pretty good. It doesn't bother me when I try it on, but we'll see. I will report back on this sock also, especially because I have to knit a second one because, well, I have to fit. But anyway, this is the last of my knitting projects I'm working on at the moment. Thank you so much for watching. I feel like the past couple of weeks has been a mix of experiments, tiny victories, and a lot of progress, which is exactly what I love to share with you guys every single podcast episode. And if you want to, don't forget to comment down below what you're working on. I would love to know. And if you enjoyed spending some time with me today, don't forget to give this video a thumbs up, ring the bell and subscribe if you haven't already. I post regular podcast episodes here on the channel every 2 weeks. And until I see you next time, I wish you all the happiness with your knitting. Bye!